I am on a 2024 Road Glide.
Guys, my name is Rick and this is the HDVIBE channel. In today's video, I'm going to give you my regular guy's perspective on the 2024 Road Glide. Why do I say regular guy's perspective? Well, guys, I wasn't flown anywhere by Harley Davidson. I'm not endorsed by Harley Davidson. I'm going to give you my honest perspective and some specifications about the 2024 Road Glide. I'm going to compare that in some cases to the 2023 Road Glide ST because I am familiar with that platform. And we're going to decide, is it better or just different? And we'll get into all that right after this. So that's right, guys. We're going to talk about the 2024 Road Glide. You've probably seen a lot of videos on this already, but this one's going to be a little different. We're going to talk about it and decide and talk about some of the things that are different, and really does that make it better versus the 2023 Road Glide ST. And then after we talk about this a little bit, I'm gonna share with you my on-the-road impressions as they came into my head. These bikes are completely changed, right? The engine, the front fairing, the lighting, the rear fender, the seat, the handlebars, the infotainment system, the gauges, almost everything is really changed on this bike except the frame. Having said that, so a lot of changes. So obviously LEDs all around, huge improvement over the older model, the ST models. But I think the biggest thing is really, let's talk about the engine and what has changed on that. So it is a 117, just like the STs from the previous model year. However, because it does have all of that electronics built into it, it has different ride modes. So if you got the RDRS on the 2023 ST models, you got a rain mode and a regular mode, right? But this, because of the electronics built into it, it has a rain mode, a road mode, and a sport mode. In the video, you'll see after this, I was in sport mode the entire time, and oh my gosh, sport mode is something else. So I talked about RDRS. RDRS is standard on the new 2024 Road Glide versus it being an option on the STs in the previous model year. The digital gauge cluster, so it's all digital. That is the way everything is going. So it's just the way it's going to be. Is it better? I don't know if it's necessarily better. If you think about it, the electronics is really driving that engine. And as you probably have heard in some other videos or other people talk about, the 2024s, they're having some software upgrades that have to be made. That's sort of typical in these new model years. But one of the things that happens on these 2024s is they won't start. You're riding, they start fine. You go for a ride, you turn it off, and it just won't start. You crank, 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 crank. And there was a software update to correct that problem. So I think you're going to see more of that, just like you did in the Pan America when it first came out in, 2021. Lots of software upgrades to get sort of all those bugs and kinks worked out. Typical on a first year model. Saddlebags. We talked about sort of the redesign of everything, the fairing, the fenders, all that. The saddlebags, they really are larger. You have more capacity in those than you did even on the stretched CVO style bags. I, in the dealership, had them side by side, and the 2024 saddlebags are definitely significantly larger and give you more storage space than the ST short bags. Improved suspension. There is 50% more travel in that suspension in the rear, so you get a much smoother ride, and you'll get a little bit of that when you see my video of on the road. I really did experience that, so much improved in that perspective. It does have CarPlay in that infotainment system. However, you don't have Android Auto, and to get CarPlay to work, you have to have a headset connected, so you have to connect wirelessly. There's no option to plug in anymore. So all wireless, all electronic, but no Android Auto. So if you have an Android phone, you're not going to be connecting it up to the new infotainment system on the 2024s. So here is the interesting thing, the price point on this. So I'm going to compare a 2023 Road Glide ST to a 2024 Road Glide because it has the 117 engine. And that's probably the most comparable. So the 2023 Road Glide ST, base price plus RDRS, because that's standard on the new model. You have to add that on the old model. You have freight. You had a surcharge in 2023 of $1,000. That bike comes in at $32,949 MSRP plus those fees. On the 2024, it starts at $25,999. You have to add $600 for a black bike. You have to add $1,350 for a blacked out bike in terms of the exhaust, the engine, those sort of things being blacked out. Then your freight on top of that at $850, you're at $28,799 versus $32,949. So significant savings. Repeat MSRP, you're saving a significant amount of money and you're getting a lot more for that money, I believe. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna let you guys decide, are they better or just different? And now what I wanna do is share with you my on the road impressions as they popped into my head. This is gonna go by pretty quick because it's just, I cut it to just me giving you my thoughts as they popped into my head and then wrap up the video after that.
I have it right now, it's in sport mode, so this thing is super twitchy. The throttle response is almost immediate. One thing I did notice right off the bat is the position of the handlebars, at least the way this one is set up, is much higher than my 2021 Road Glide. So a little difference there. The seat height is pretty comfortable. So I think if I were to get one of these 2024s, I'd probably have the handlebars pulled back a little bit toward me, so they're a little high. But a lot of people like them up a little bit higher. This triple tree top clamp here, the bushings in there are very soft. And actually, if you do push on the bars themselves, push forward or pull back on them a little bit, you do get a little movement in those bars. And I have heard that from others, that that is the case. So obviously you've got the whole new infotainment system. This way you can set up the screen however you like to set it up. So right now I've got my tachometer on the right, my speedometer on the left, and then my mode is right down here. You can see it's S for sport mode. So that's what I've been riding it in. It is, like I said, very twitchy, very torquey. Just a little, you can see a little jab of that throttle, and that thing is really, it's ready to take off on you. I'll be playing the infotainment system itself, but it does have Apple CarPlay wirelessly built in. Unfortunately, I have an Android phone, and Android Auto is not an option on these 2024 infotainment systems. Just cruising along some of these roads here. It's a little bit of a bumpy road, and I would say it's taking these bumps pretty well. So from that perspective, I think the suspension, I know they changed the suspension in the front, and I don't know if they necessarily changed it in the back, but it rides pretty well. And as far as the seating position, typical forward controls, it's got the full-size floorboards for the rider, versus if you go to the CVO ST Road Glide, that actually has, and I just sat on that just a little bit ago, it has actually some really small floorboards. Actually my foot, and I don't have that big of a foot, really kind of enveloped that floorboard. It was kind of an odd feeling. It does have the 117. That 117 is a twin cooled. It does have liquid cooled heads, I believe, on there, and your radiator cooler is right up here on your left side. It runs along the frame. So from that perspective, I think it much improves. They don't have to have the big the lower fairings on there like they have on the older models, where you had that sitting on the side here and all your coolant kind of circulated through there. So mirrors, same old Harley Davidson mirrors that you'll find for many, many years. No improvement there. Thing that people often, in addition to handlebars, will change out on these Harley Davidsons once they get them is the seat. And this seat, it's actually a lot firmer than what were the old stock seats. So they did redesign those, and they're probably a little bit closer into the tank than what the old ones were. Not quite as cushiony, like I said, a little firmer. And, from a comfort position and riding position, pretty comfortable. So I'm actually going to get up on the highway here. And we'll see how this thing accelerates again in sport mode. I think this thing is going to be pretty darn quick. So I will say the position of like the turn signals and those sort of things are obviously a little bit different than the older model, so that would take some getting used to, but everything is set up just a little bit differently. Starter's up on top here. So being in that sport mode, like I said, getting up here on the highway, no problem getting up to highway speed whatsoever. And that throttle is very twitchy. I mean, you almost have to be careful. If you're not an experienced rider in sport mode, this bike could very easily get away from you without question, because it is just so sensitive on that throttle. So the other thing I did notice, I know these do have ABS. I believe this has the RDRS on it. But when it is in sport mode, I don't know if it has the anti-lock capability turned on. I'm going to have to research that, because I was doing some quick stops and getting into the brakes pretty hard, and I did notice the back end was sliding out, so which would tell me that the anti-lock or RDRS was not operating in. So as far as wind protection goes, not bad. I mean, it does have that very low stock windshield on it. I'm trying to squeeze into traffic here. But it's not terrible on the highway. Of course, I'm wearing a modular helmet, so that sort of helps with wind protection, but I didn't get any or feel any turbulence coming sort of at the helmet from any dirty wind. So from that perspective, pretty good. You know, the exhaust system, the normal, you know, Harley, fairly quiet exhaust stock. So that's probably something you would consider changing out on this, but not terrible. And I do believe the head pipe is different on this, but the actual slip-on sizes are the same as your your 2017, your Milwaukee 8 motors. So you can use just about any slip-on on these, I do believe, but double check that. Overall, this is it's interesting. Again, I've just had a few minutes on this bike here. Are pretty good. Like I said, in that sport mode, very, very twitchy, and could easily get away from you. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick overview and view of me on this 2024 Road Glide with the 117. Pretty interesting bike. I'm used to the 117s that I have on the Street Glide CVO and the Street Glide ST. And this one, I don't know. It seems a bit torquier, but it could be that sport mode, the electronics sort of kicking in and running that motor at a much higher torque and a quicker throttle response. So guys, with that, if you got value out of this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also consider sharing this with your friends, so that like-minded individuals may be able to check this out as well and get my thoughts on this 2024 Road Glide. Also consider subscribing to the channel. Hit that button right down there. It really helps out the channel. I'd really appreciate it. When you do subscribe, leave a comment down below saying I subscribe, so I can personally reach out and thank you for supporting the channel. Also, don't forget to hit the bell icon and select all, so you do get notified every time I do put out new content. I have over 200 videos on tips, tricks, rides, reviews, and installs on these Harley-Davidson touring motorcycles. And there's bound to be something else that will help you out, save you some money, or learn something about a product or how to install that product that you may not have known before. So guys, with that, I want to leave you with this thought. Life is short. Get out and ride the bike. Thanks for stopping by, and we're pulling into Gateway Harley-Davidson, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye now.